With regard to quid pro quo, as you mentioned, what was interesting was Lamar Alexander today, again, making some news. A Republican effectively found that they did prove quid pro quo. You made a statement that I thought was really striking because quid pro quo revolves around the deal, around extorting a bribe, around having a deal, and whether that deal, as you say, is corrupt. Take a listen to something that a lot of people found striking, given that the issue is extorting that bribe. That Senator Alexander, a Republican today, says they did prove that. Here was something you said about criminal-like
you're
conduct.
Misstating exactly.
Professor,
everything.
I will give you time, but I'm going to play.
He didn't say bribe.
I'm going to play you on the Senate floor.
Not his words.
And I'll play his words as well, sir. Here you were on the Senate floor. Take a look.
The position that I've derived from the history would include, and this is a word that has upset some people, but would include criminal-like conduct akin to treason and bribery.
Akin to bribery. And as for Senator Alexander,
that's right.
You and I both like to work with the record evidence. Let's do it. I'll put back up on the screen for everyone. Senator Alexander says that he thought the Democrats proved Trump froze aid to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. Aid for pressuring the investigation, which even Bill Barr has said would be not something he'd be involved with because it's not appropriate in the United States. So that is what I'm referring to. And my question to you is, how do you say you can't impeach unless there's that kind of conduct when it appears that's exactly the kind of conduct at issue?
Because they didn't impeach him for that. They impeached him for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Had they impeached him for bribery, the issue would be very, very different. Had they impeached him for extortion, the issue would be very different.
So if they use those words, you'd be fine with it?
To impeach him for bribery
you'd be fine
or
with it
to
if they
impeach
used
him
the
for
B word?
extortion. Instead, they impeached him for abuse of power.
Is this a drafting issue then? You'd be fine with it if they just used the B word?
No, it's not a drafting issue because they had Professor Tribe on their side. They had a lot of zealots on their side. If they had the evidence, they would have been obviously smart enough to allege bribery or extortion or any of these other things. They didn't have the evidence. They didn't have the votes on that. So they had to come up with some non-constitutional, vague, open-ended criteria that James Madison would have rejected out of hand. Abuse of power, obstruction of Congress. It's because they didn't have the evidence. And Lamar Alexander didn't say that he found that they committed bribery or extortion. If he had found that, then perhaps he would have said, I'll vote for
I just showed it.
Conviction.
But
what he said is that the charges made against him were not
aid for investigation,
constitutionally
froze
permissible.
aid to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. That's what he found.
That's not bribery. That's not extortion. And if it were, they would have charged him with it. The point is, if you accuse somebody of dishonesty in an indictment, and then he moves to strike the indictment, that would be granted, even if there were a list of things he did that constituted dishonesty. You have to charge something that's a crime if it's a criminal case, or an impeachable offense if it's an impeachable case. Now, they didn't charge impeachable offenses. That's what I was brought in to argue. That's what I argued. If Senator Lamar Alexander accepted that argument, I'd be very pleased. I think he made the
I want to get in another item
based on his own research.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.